So the question of third-person view versus first-person view in Star Citizen, what makes sense? Why not just use camera drones? Now, the concern around using a third-person view giving you some kind of gameplay advantage is 100% legitimate. It is a 100% legitimate concern. Just because it works in a different format or a different game doesn't mean it works for Star Citizen. The standard format of a third-person MMO, like seen here, is based around the idea of a dungeon runner. This gives me situational awareness. This gives me the ability to use mob control on different mobs all around me. It allows me to CC. It allows me to do all kinds of things in a dungeon run environment where I need that situational awareness. However, this is not the format that Star Citizen uses as a game, and quite happily so. It isn't a dungeon runner game. This is a first-person universe, and it's based around the idea of delivering the most immersive experience possible when it's working. Now, of course, there are different types of immersion, right? There are different types of atmospherics, but Star Citizen really kind of goes for that first-person look. And problems aside, difficulties aside, Star Citizen delivers 100% in this area. I mean, yeah, there's bugs and there's problems. What game doesn't have them? Even when I showed that clip of World of Warcraft, you should have seen the launch event for BFA. It was quite terrible. And, the actual launch was equally bad. But Star Citizen, this game is designed from the front. When we bought into this game, we knew it was going to be a first-person universe. It was designed that way, and it exceeds in many ways in that delivery. It's very beautiful to look at, atmospherically. There are parts that are lacking, but even when they were talking on Ask the Devs on Monday, they were talking about atmospherics for the asteroid field because people were asking about the Aaron Halo, the asteroid field around our corp. And they were saying, well, that's going to come a little bit later. You already see the asteroid field around Yella, but it's kind of dry. It's kind of one-dimensional. And we want to add some atmospherics, I guess, like dust clouds moving around in the asteroid field, or just the asteroid field itself having a cool dust cloud effect, which would give it more atmosphere, more personality. 100% understand that. And that's kind of the experience that we're buying into here, right? Now, as much as I said, there are the concerns around a third-person view, and they are 100% legitimate because it is a gameplay advantage. If you can fly your ship from outside of the ship, and you guys see me doing it a lot when I'm landing a ship, I'll switch to third person, but I've learned, to varying degrees of success now, I've learned how to fly my ship in the third person to make landings work. And we've discussed systems before, overlays, or there's, of course, the radar view. I mean, even the Canadian Will made those suggestions again in the last video where we were talking about this. A lot of people have suggested these things, and of course, a cockpit like this, you can see very clearly around you. You have a good idea of where the ground is, so it's not that hard. But should every ship be designed with a bubble cockpit that lets you look down, up, and all around? No, they shouldn't. Every ship should have a certain amount of personality to it and a certain, I want to say, originality to its design. However, the interface that we have with the game, I think the interface that we have through the UI and through the information that's available to us as a pilot and as a player, I think that is the area where the conflict comes in. I think that, in a ship like this, this cockpit is delivered exceedingly well. This is an excellent cockpit, in my opinion. The Buccaneer has one of the best cockpits of all the fighters in the game. Now, say what you will about the Buccaneer. I've been kind of learning to love it again, but I'm waiting to see a few changes and a few systems come in. But I've been really enjoying the ship, but it's a much more realistic cockpit. You have to look down, you know, just the same way as when you're driving a car, you have to glance downwards to read your instrumentation. Like, you kind of know what speed you're going at when you're driving a car, but if you want to look at the speedometer, you have to look down to actually be able to read the numbers, right? Say, like, if you want to read, you know, how many miles you've gone, you look down and you have to purposefully, you know, aim your eyes downwards to read those numbers. You're aware of those dials when you're driving, but you have to glance down to see them. But in the end, a third-person view, you could say, oh yeah, but you could just let us, you know, fly in third-person view, and you could just have this holographic instrumentation around our ship, and we could just fly that way, and it just solves all these problems. True, but the problem is that Star Citizen was designed around the idea of it being a first-person universe. And the interface that we have just doesn't deliver in the way that we need it to deliver. It doesn't give us the information that we need in order to make that first-person universe really work. So you have that point of conflict there, right? Where I feel that aesthetics are coming in and idealizations are coming in, and that's kind of pushing back on the needed tools to make the first-person universe really work. Whereas the ships themselves, you could argue that these ship designs, all of them, across the board, are 100% fine if you allow players to fly in the third person. However, players flying in the third person will have a definite situational awareness advantage over players flying in the first person, and that's why, for combat purposes, it really shouldn't be allowed. Now, we seem to be stuck in a paradox, right? We seem to be stuck in a paradox where if you want original ship designs, you can't have every ship having a bubble cockpit. And once again, you know, the Canadian Will, he made that point. You can't have every ship being able to look up, down, all around. 100% agree, 100% agree. But I feel that it's not so much a problem of straight up aesthetics as it is user interface, that it is a user interface driven problem, and that CIG wants to exercise this artistic freedom, which fine, 100% fine, but we need a user interface that allows that vehicle to function realistically, that allows a player to be able to use that ship at the same level or very, very close to it as someone having an open cockpit like this. We need those tools. That is something that is a very high priority. The user interface currently in Star Citizen is not very good. It doesn't, I mean, aesthetically, it kind of fits the universe that you're building for, but the tools themselves that you give the players to allow these different cockpits and to allow these different ship kind of configurations, they need to be brought up much higher. I mean, you have to start thinking about overlays, augmented reality, things of that nature. Especially when it comes to piloting a ship, players need to be able to see the ground. They need to be able to see in the dark, not 100%, but they need something more reliable than their headlights. They need the ability to function as a pilot would need to be able to function in this universe. Like, if you have a ship that has a 50-50 chance of killing you because you can't see the ground or you can't orientate yourself in the dark, and guess what? Surprise, surprise, there's some dark areas in space. You need to factor that into your user interface, and you need to factor that into your player's control interface. You know, it's aesthetics are fine, and the aesthetics in Star Citizen are crisp. They're beautiful. But you need to give players the tools to navigate those environments. And I think that that is one of the areas, especially in the user interface, that needs a lot of work. Now, there's a lot of cool ways that you can do that, different avionics packages, different control packages, and components that you can attach to a ship to possibly give you different overlays or different qualities of overlay. And you can balance that by the amount of slots or what types of components a ship can handle, whether it needs computing power or heat dissipation, whatever. You can control what players can do to a certain extent, but we need better tools, I think. And it's, we can argue aesthetics till the cows come home. Some ships you're just not gonna like, It's just like some cars on the road, you look at them and you're like, I cannot believe somebody spent $30,000 on that. And then to the next guy, they might look at that and say, that's the coolest car I ever saw, right? If we get the right tools and the right user interface, I think that this problem kind of solves itself, and it allows artists to express themselves much more freely while still not compromising the player experience in such a way that in a game where you have hard death and hard loss, a player might look at a ship like that and say, you know what, aesthetically I like it, but it's too much of a gamble, it's too much of a penalty. I wish I had the UI to use it, but realistically it just doesn't really match up to the reality of the game. So that's kind of where I fall on the third person issue. I agree that it shouldn't be allowed for gameplay reasons. I, as a video maker, kind of like having it because it allows me to capture these beautiful shots. Even still images of this game are just striking. And that's why I kind of, while I agree with the fact that third person, allowing players even to look around corners or allowing fighters to have better situational awareness when fighting an asteroid field, I agree with those points, but I still like to have the third person camera for the beautiful camera shots, I know, but as a video maker, it makes my life 100% easier. So I'm not sure about the drone idea. I mean, it could be interesting, but for right now, I think that we're kind of in a good place where you don't have the UI, but I think that if we had the right tools, then things like landings, flying in the dark from the cockpit wouldn't be so much of an issue, and it would enhance the immersion of the game to have those proper tools so that you could stay in the cockpit view while landing the ship. And maybe even make it so that when you're in the third person view, you can't even control your ship. Like your ability to control your ship is removed so that you can, circle around your ship or your character and you can capture all these cool shots, but perhaps there's no control interface, so there's no direct influence that you can have over your ship while you're doing this, so you can't pilot at the same time. However, a change like that should come hand in hand with an enhanced user display that allows you to interact from the cockpit much more effectively. I think if you come to a point like that in the user interface, if you get those tools out there in players' hands, you, one, give yourself all kinds of artistic freedom with your ships and with your cockpit designs and all of that. Two, you improve the immersion of the game, allowing players to stay in the cockpit and really experience the universe the way you want them to. And then three, you still have something like this so we can capture these amazing and beautiful shots of the game that we kind of paid to build. So that's my point of view on third person versus first person camera views. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.